Hey guys, this is Ray's here. I hope you've had a great week. Today I'm doing What If Godzilla Was in Attack on Titan Season 2, Part 2. Few months have passed ever since the arrival of Godzilla and the world has changed. The Titans have not been seen and humanity is slowly growing, but some changes as great as this always comes with a dark part. If you like this video and want to see more What If I make, please like and hit that notification. With that out of the way, let's begin this What If. Chapter 4, An unusual day on the job. Levi and Aaron were surrounded by children, each ready with their own questions. How far can you fly? One child asked. We don't fly, Levi sneered, the gear only allows us to glide on air. Perpetual motion takes care of the rest. How big do you get when you become a Titan? Another child asked. 15 meters, Aaron answered. At the very, Aaron stops as his sight set on the horizon. A long trail of purple smoke slithered in the sky. It was an emergency. He looked over to Levi, who also noticed. They weren't the only ones. The entire Central Patrol group ran off, grappling whichever building was nearby. Sorry, Aaron said. Duty calls. Aaron darted off as quickly as he could. He aimed his grappler, pulling him onto the rooftops thanks to the help from a jet of pressurized gas. The two ran and leapt from roof to roof, making their way towards the source of smoke. They had finally caught up with the rest of the team, seeing an area of town demolished. The ash and dust was incredibly thick, obscuring the view. The order was given to hold, as it would be unwise to attack without visuals. Aaron gazed fiercely at the cloud of ash, able to see some kind of movement. Whatever it is, Aaron thought, it has to be huge. A Titan? After months of inactivity, have they come back? The answers seemed to be much stranger. The thick cloud of ash faded, showing what looked like a gigantic human silhouette. 30-meter class, Hang called out, possibly a deviant type. Her suspicions were almost immediately debunked as the smoke cleared completely. The figure that stood before them was in fact an insect. A praying mantis to be exact. Towering at 30 meters, its exoskeleton bore a greenish-gray color, complementing its bright yellow eyes. It stood there, cleaning its scythe-like appendages. In one world, this species did have a name, Kamakuras, that is one seriously deviant type. Connie spoke out. The gigantic mantis was not alone. Behind it 6 more emerged, walking past the first one and into the city. 4 more followed suit. Everyone scatters. Levi yelled, don't let any of them go further into the city. The hundreds of Survey Corps soldiers went off, scattering in different directions. Connie, Jean, and Armand went to take out the mantis to the left. Aaron, Mikasa, and Levi went to take the one to the right. Mobilt, Hang, and Sasha went to the mantis center. Jean decided to go for the first strike. Jetting straight for the colossal invertebrate. Grappling the monster's shoulder, he propelled himself towards the creature's neck. The monster mantis noticed his advance and began to swing its arm towards the human. Jean quickly flipped midair, dodging the insect's attack. Connie decided to take advantage of the distraction and leapt forward. He managed to glide onto the monster's arm, making his way to the neck. He made it. He raised both blades, dual slashing the usual weak spot. But all it did was scratch the exoskeleton. The blade didn't cut through. I don't think the usual plan is going to work here, he yelled, then come up with something new. Jean shouted, trying to regain momentum. Meanwhile, Sasha and her group were having similar troubles. The mantis kept swatting at them like flies. The group wasn't able to get a hit in due to the fact that these things moved quicker than the Titans they were used to. Its primary weapon, Hang said, avoiding a swipe from the creature. Seems to be using slash attacks. It doesn't appear to use blunt force. Armored exoskeleton, flight capabilities, anytime you want to give us its weakness, Moblit said, slashing at one of the monster's legs, would be great. Now focus on staying alive. Sasha had an idea of her own. Maybe attacking the eyes would be a good start. She unleashed her grappling hooks to 2 nearby chimneys. She pulled herself back, preparing to slingshot her way up to the creature's face. She released herself, letting out a jet of gas to keep her momentum. Halfway up, she realized the major problem with her plan. The creature could see her. With a swing, the monster insect backhanded her away, sending her flying right towards the market district. She tumbled, making it hard to tell when to dispatch the hooks again. All she could do was spurt out gas to lower her speed. Fortunately, a vegetable stand broke her fall. She got back up, covered with the remains of what once was good produce, my cabbages, the stand owner yelled out. Sasha ignored the stand owner, grabbing a zucchini and a tomato she took off to rejoin her crew. One of the other mantises was making its way towards a granary. Aaron and his group made their way over. Mikasa. Aaron said, I've told you before, I don't need your protection. You never did listen too well, she said. I'm always going to protect you. You just don't have a choice in the matter. If our little lover's quarrel is over, Levi interrupted, we need to focus on that thing attacking the city. Mikasa opened her mouth, as she was going to yell that it wasn't like that at all. But she closed it immediately as she realized Levi was right. They had to drop the argument in order to keep this territory intact. Levi took charge, climbing up the creature's back and performing his signature takedown on the neck. Like Connie just a few hundred feet away, all it did was leave a few scratches. It was like trying to cut a crab with a toothpick. I highly doubt this thing is a titan. Levi cried out. This had Aaron confused. If this thing isn't a titan, then what the hell is it? And more importantly, how could they stop them? At this point, the gigantic insects were so preoccupied with the puny humans, they didn't even move from their positions, desperate to kill the tiny organisms that halted their search for food. That was the good news. The bad news was, there was still a swarm of gigantic insects on the loose. The biggest victory here was that they were too overwhelmed to fly. Like a butterfly being swarmed by ants, at this point, the large monsters could be seen from the far end of town, causing panic. Even the children in the town center could see the carnage. Children please, Mickey called out, remain calm. Just remember what I've taught you and join hands. Each child sat down in place, holding whoever's hand was nearest to them. Eventually, there was a long line of children linked in hands, all the way to Mickey herself. Everyone then closed their eyes and remained still. Connie and Jean were struggling against the colossal invertebrate. Since they couldn't actually hurt the thing, they had to either lure it out of the city or capture it. And it wasn't willing to comply with either option. Armin circled around the creature, trying to think of something. He then remembered this was an insect. Testing his theory, he shot his grappling line, aiming at the knee of the creature's first front leg. The hook hit between the segments, into the flesh. The monster mantis screeched out in pain. What the hell did you do to it? Connie yelled out, landing on a rooftop. It's an insect, he called out. All insects have segmented bodies that connect to dash. In English please. Yelled Jean, avoiding another swing by the monster. Attack its joints, Armin called out again, and where the limbs meet the body. Those areas won't be armored. Jean and Connie looked at each other and nodded. This sounded insane, but Armin's track record showed that his plans were 90% solid. They leaped in unison, releasing their grappling hooks at the elbow joints. They hit their targets, causing the mantis to shriek even louder. They then flew at the enormous insect and landed on each of its forearms. They took out their blades and dug them as far as they could into the elbow joints. As the creature cried out in agony, the two core members performed a crouching run. Guiding their blades to a circling pattern, as they made a full circular slash, the arms flung off with a torrent of yellow blood. Armin took charge, hooking onto the area where the torso and waist of the creature met. He crossed his arms, with blades in hand, and performed a flawless cross-slash. The attack worked, causing more yellow mantis blood to pour out. The creature toppled over, the nerves connecting to the legs severed. It lay twitching on the street, bleeding to death. Good either Armin. Jean said, admiring the kill. Don't thank me yet, Armin said. We have to let the others know what we've learned or the city will become a giant feeding ground. The three scattered, each going in a different direction. Armin was off not only to warn the others of the new plan and attack, but also to make sure the two people he cared about most were still safe. Fortunately, they were still safe. But for how long was still uncertain. So far, their only plan was to aim for the eyes. Aaron thought that going to Titan would be too risky, as he didn't want to cause any more unnecessary damage to the city. Levi swung to another rooftop, ready to get a new angle. The mantis caught sight of Levi, performing an upward slash. This tethered the line, sending Levi flying upwards. Before he knew what to do, the mantis used its other scythe to swipe him downwards, right into the creature's mouth. Levi could feel the grinding on his legs as the monster pulled him into its maw further. Mikasa ran up the creature's arm, grappling into the mantis's right eye. Distracted, the monster opened its mouth long enough for Mikasa to pull him out. Levi was able to escape, covered in insect saliva, but otherwise unharmed. Mikasa, however, was not so lucky. The mantis performed a downward sweeping motion, flinging her down towards the street. Mikasa! Eren yelled, launching himself towards her. She was able to fire off the grappling hooks, but due to damage taken by the monster, the mechanism malfunctioned. The ropes entwined as she fired them. She hung suspended off the ground, entangled in her own gear. The creature lumbered towards her, preparing to end her intrusion. It raised its claw, attempting to impale her. A sudden gust of steam rushed out at the monster, concealing sight for a solid second. As it cleared, it was revealed that a pair of hands had stopped the claw in its place. These hands belonged to one of humanity's greatest weapons, Eren Yeager, the rogue titan. Eren roared at the mantis, issuing a challenge. He then pulled with all his might, severing the claw from the gigantic insect. Holding it like a baseball bat, Eren used the severed limb to beat its former owner. The sounds of the fight caught the attention of the other mantises, alerting them to better prey. Once the first was dead, a Kamakura snuck up behind him and leapt on his back. Armin landed on the rooftop next to a slime-covered Levi. He's gone Titan already? Armin asked. Don't just stand there, Levi said, frantically trying to get as much saliva off him as he could. Get Mikasa out of there before she gets herself killed. Armin complied. Due to the saliva, Levi's equipment was clogged up. All he could do now was keep looking out. Eren managed to toss the Kamakuras off his back. They were surprisingly light for being larger than his Titan form. Once the insect was down, Eren assaulted it with a multitude of poundings with his bare hands. Another Kamakuras charged in, ramming Eren into a large building. He kicked the creature back with all his might, sending the creature into a row of freshly built homes. While Eren roared at his fallen foe, another one crept in, crouched near his right leg. The Kamakuras bit down hard onto the Titan's leg. Eren pounded on the monster's head, drawing yellow blood. Then, pulling his leg up, he was able to grab hold of the creature and tear it off his leg. 3 more mantises came crawling towards him. Eren threw the Kamakuras he removed from his legs and charged in. One of them made a slash attack, just missing Eren by a hair. Eren held on to the creature's shoulder and stomach and punched the Kamakuras. Another one crept in, ready to bite into Eren's neck. Luckily, he noticed it right away and slammed the 2 mantises into each other. He stomped furiously on the pile of knocked-out invertebrates, creating a gigantic crunching sound that could be heard a mile away. Meanwhile, the one from earlier he had tossed into a few buildings got back on its feet. It took hold of Eren's arm with its claws clamped down tight and its jaws set. Before Eren could react, the Kamakuras tore his arm off. The attack threw off the Titan's balance, causing him to trip over. Eren performed a sweeping kick, hard enough to break all 4 of its legs and send it tumbling down. While the Kamakuras fell, Eren took hold of its neck and slammed the creature's head into the ground. He then brought the creature's neck back up and chomped down on the Kamakuras' throat. This was to ensure it wouldn't get back up again. Armin had finally cut Mikasa loose, taking her to the rooftop to rejoin with Levi. I almost wish he didn't do that, Mikasa said, watching the carnage before them. These things are faster and more numerous than any Titan attack we've encountered so far. He can handle his own, Armin said, but we should be ready to assist at any time. 2 more mantises fell at Eren's hands. Another managed to take hold of his remaining arm, stopping him in his tracks. A second Kamakuras took hold of his right leg. He attempted to kick it away with his left leg, but another mantis grabbed that one as well. Like a gang of bullies from his childhood, they held him into place as he struggled, creeping in from his other shoulder. A 4th one held onto his torso. It was opening its mouth, ready to bite into the one place that could harm him, the neck. No! Mikasa yelled, activating her gear and heading to Eren's location. Eren! Armin yelled as he followed, just as the others gnawed on Eren's body. The 4th mantis prepared to chomp down on Eren's neck. Suddenly, a sound could be heard. Eren heard a choir of children humming in unison. What was stranger still, he wasn't hearing it with his ears. It was in his head. The mantises stopped in their tracks, as if something else caught their attention. They released Eren, leaving his chewed-up body to fall to the ground with a giant thud. The enormous insects then began to walk away in unison. They opened their wing cases and lifted their bodies off the ground with the beat of their wings. They flew off, returning to the forest from which they came. Eren lay motionless on the ground, still hearing the strange song in his head. Exhausted and taken too much damage, he was expelled from his titan body. Emerging from the neck, the song ceased. Armin and Mikasa made it to him, lifting him off his feet. Are you alright? Mikasa asked. Speak to me, Eren. Eren let out a cough and opened his eyes. Yes, he answered. I think so. What happened to those things? They just flew off, Armin replied. I don't even know why. They just got up and left. The signal flare was released, a yellow flare, to alert all that the danger had passed. Where did the singing come from? Eren asked. What? Mikasa said. What are you talking about? That singing, Eren explained, when those things ganged up on me. Couldn't you hear it? We didn't hear anything, Eren. Mikasa answered. Maybe it's another side effect, Armin stated. You always say weird things happen when you turn. I guess you're right, Armin. Eren replied, but deep down, Eren knew this wasn't normal. He did hear something. But what was it? The only thing he did know for sure was that whatever was going on, it was just getting started. Deep in the forest, the humming continued. It was not a sound that could be heard by ears alone, but with a mind. One mind, completely new to the environment, heard the song as it echoed through its brain. The thing in the forest listened intently as it faded away. Meanwhile, back in Tanakibo, Eren's friends carried him through the town, gazing at the destruction around them. Even though only a handful of buildings were destroyed, it still weighed heavily on them. An entire corner of the city reduced to piles of rubble, rocks, and remains of giant insects slain by a rogue shifter. The group reunited with Connie and Hang as they came halfway towards the town center. Hang was perched on top of a Kamakura's body, no doubt an unfortunate victim of the Survey Corps, Armin. Connie yelled out as he saw them. Everyone else all right? The three of us made it out all right, Armin answered. Levi will rejoin us shortly. Other than you, we haven't made any contact with the others. Did the message get through? It went through all right, Connie replied. Thanks to your idea, we managed to take down 4 of these things. The rest seemed more interested in something else. Any idea where they went off to? Eren asked. Our group saw them head out to that large patch of forest out there. He replied. They just got up and left. Hang leaped down from the enormous carcass and landed right beside the group. This specimen is very unusual, she said. It's definitely non-Titan. None of our equipment or any of my tools can cut through the exoskeleton. So I'll have to do a chemical analysis. She placed a few vials of what looked like the creature's blood into her bag, no doubt to study later. Eren's mind was still focused on what Connie said. It wasn't just the creatures he tussled with, but the entire swarm just ceased and left. Did it have anything to do with the voices he heard? He finally had enough strength to stand on his own 2 feet again. As the rest of the group debriefed one another, he had to walk a few feet, just to get the blood flowing again. He's not gone, you know. A voice said. Eren turned around, noticing the old man sitting just behind him. I'm sorry, Eren said. Were you talking to me? He's not gone, the old man continued. He just left. Left for a short time, went way up north. The trip changed him to something terrible too. Stabbed you in the back. He did, and he'll be stabbing it again. Before Eren could ask any more, a younger man came into view. Sorry about my father, the young man said. He gets very delusional around sunset. Pay him no mind, he probably just spouted out nonsense. Deliverance be with you, the man took hold of his father, taking him back inside the house. Something about the words the old man said felt like they just might be for him. Was it a warning? Some kind of message? Or was it really just some old fool rambling nonsense? Meanwhile, it was getting dark in the forest. Thanks to the enormous canopy of gigantic trees, it was twice as dark as outside. Reiner and Ymir had trekked for at least 2 hours from the edge of the ocean, coming back from a disappointment and a shock. Any word from the beast? Ymir asked. Not one. Reiner said, it's been so long since he last showed his face. Given the odds I wouldn't, they both stopped dead in their tracks, shocked at the new discovery. The small shelter they'd built, the one that took days to assemble and camouflage, was completely demolished. The large area of ground seemed to collapse in on itself into a giant chasm. Inside this chasm, other than the remains of their hiding spot, was a mass of large purple structures. The structures looked like gigantic crystalline stones, jutting out in profound shapes. Another oddity was a large shell, almost cradled among the crystals. The shell resembled the remains from a goose's nest. Whatever was inside was now out and about. What the hell happened here? Reiner shouted. First the tremor, now this? Must nature itself torment us today? Emer looked around, seeing if there were any clues left behind. She did find one. Plenty of them. She touched Reiner's shoulder, alerting him to what she found. The area outside the crevice was littered with footprints. Giant footprints, one set looked like some kind of reptile, lizard maybe. The other set were stumpy and hard to identify. It almost looked like some creature was chasing another, given how hectic the layout patterns seemed to be. Whatever it was that did this, Reiner continued, probably hatched from that egg there. They looked around again, noticing the footprints that lead deeper into the forest. We should follow them. Emer said, it wouldn't be wise to ignore something that could do something on this scale. Reiner nodded. If it could do this, then it could do even worse later on. They walked in the direction of the tracks, ready to investigate the other cog in their plan. Besides, Reiner had some bottled up aggression he needed to let loose on something. Meanwhile, the rest of the Survey Corps had rejoined, tallying up the damages from the fight. So far, at least 37 casualties were reported. 12 of those were Corps members. 48 were injured, 35 of them civilians. This was on par with an average Titan attack. Back when those attacks were commonplace. It had been a long time since anyone had seen this kind of carnage. While the debriefing went on, a large ruckus was heard. There was a massive gathering of people in the street. Eren decided to go off, activating his gear, leaving his comrades to themselves. As he landed firmly on the ground, he saw a familiar face. It was Monroe and his followers again. This time, they had a much larger audience. Half of the town was here listening to him. See what happens? Monroe yelled out, see what happens when you run off from the truth? All of you were welcome within the walls, and you turned your back on them. See what your follies have brought upon you. The crowd howled at him. Many were outraged at the sight of him. Where was this guardian protector you all put your faith into? He continued, nowhere. This noble beast you all follow has left you here to die. Come with us, back to the embrace of the three goddesses. They are permanent, stationary, and don't sleep on the job like the great predator. The crowd still roared, but some were starting to see his side. The predator has deserted us, one man said. It should have been here. This delivery is becoming less and less reliable. A woman said. Eren became distraught. They were starting to believe him. The crowd howled with different opinions and viewpoints. Mothers had to comfort their children as the crowd became more and more violent towards each other. I know it's upsetting, a voice from behind him said. He turned his head to see Mikasa, but we can't let this get to us, she continued. Not let it get to me? Eren said, his anger rising. How can I just sit here and not feel disgust? This town here, is what we've been training 3 years for. This is what we've been fighting for and barely made it out with our lives. Mikasa stood there, taking in everything he was saying. We can't let this town go to waste. He said, not after everything and everyone we've lost along the way. Eren activated his gear, swinging back to the others. His mind was clear on what had to be done. He landed right next to Hang as the Survey Corps were wrapping up their discussion. Very well, Levi said, we'll place more protection along the border, then we'll be ready for them at any time. Sorry sir, Eren said, but that's not going to cut it. This caught Levi's attention. All right, he said. What do you propose, Jaeger? We need to send a party into the forest, Eren continued. We need to hunt the rest of them down at the source. Make sure they never resurface again. Are you insane, Jaeger? Jean cried out, going in there without even knowing how many of those things are out there? That's suicide. You saw what he did to those things earlier. Armin spoke out. He took out a majority of them with his bare hands. I think we should consider sending him out there to deal with the problem directly. Last I checked, Jean continued, he almost got torn apart by the last one standing. What will happen if they decide to try it again? I agree with Jean, Levi said before anyone started a fight. Jaeger is our best weapon, and we shouldn't risk losing him out there. Jean smiled smugly as everyone else stood in silence. That's why you'll be going with him. He said, what? Jean cried out, are you serious? If Mikasa, Connie, Armin, and Hang, you'll also be accompanying Eren. You'll all have to watch his back while he takes care of them. What about you, Commander? Hang asked, I'll stay here, he said, someone has to command the pigs here. You'll head out tomorrow morning before dawn with as much spare gas as we can spare. Aaron gave a sigh of relief. His plan was allowed to go forward. Tomorrow, he would fight to keep the dream humanity has had for over a century yet again. But how many of these monsters were out there? And how long would it take to eradicate them in that deep, dark forest? That will be it for today. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please like and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next video.